Hey everybody, Tim here with today's review of Stranger Things, Season 3, Episode 3, The Case of the Missing Lifeguard, which right away, the title's pretty good because is it talking about Billy or is it talking about Heather? And then we kind of answer that question at the end of the episode. Overall, I would say it was a really good episode. It's following the same formula as the last two seasons, but it's a good formula. It's still working. I feel like if they keep doing this, eventually it'll burn out. But so far, it's still really enjoyable. Whereas, like, it's the third episode into the season, and so it's pretty much still building. We haven't really gotten anything. It's still asking questions rather than giving answers. And if it keeps following the formula, we'll start getting those answers right around episode 6. So, starting from the beginning where Max and Eleven are still bonding with, like, their girl time and stuff like that. And it's kind of nice to watch, like, Hopper break in the door. And he's like, I said 3 inches and blah. And then sees that they're just having, like, a sleepover. And then Eleven ends up basically using her powers and seeing Will, Dustin, and Lucas basically just being boys, like burping and farting and doing all sorts of stuff, and realizing just how different boys and girls are. So overall, it's kind of a cute little moment. They basically turned it into a game where at first it looked like they were playing Spin the Bottle, and I was like, there's only 2 of them, like, where's this going? But it turns out that they're trying to figure out who to spy on, and like they skip over Mike's dad, and they end up landing on Billy, and Max is like, if he's doing something gross, just get out of there. But instead, he's at, like, Eleven has a very difficult time finding him, and then it's almost like he's looking back at her. So clearly something's not quite right. We see Joyce and Hopper kind of get back together after, she stood him up in the last episode because she was at the teacher's house. And so he's just, like, railing on her, like, just giving her shit for not being there and stuff like that. And she's like, no, we need to go back to the lab because of these magnets. And so the 2 of them kind of go on that adventure that we'll get to in a minute. We see the ice in the tub when Max and Eleven go into, like, Billy's room and stuff, and right away, like, Max comes up with the excuse, like, oh, it's from, like, him working out and stuff like that, and right away, like, it's like, oh, that's kind of reminiscent of the last season where they kept trying to keep Will cold, so it's like the smoke monsters inhabiting Billy's body or something. We go back to Steve and Dustin, which, I mean, the first season, Will was kind of the outcast. And even kind of in the second season, like, Will and Dustin kind of, like, switched spots on who was not in the group. And it seems like this season, it's Dustin who's just kind of out doing his own thing. But seeing him team up with Steve is kind of nice. I really liked it. And again, it's kind of a cute moment after he, like, helped him do his hair and stuff like that. But watching them, like, play spy all around the mall and the jazzercise was just insane. Like, it was super funny. Will finally gets to play D&D, and I felt so bad for him where he's just been begging, like, everybody to play D&D with him, and they finally do, and Lucas and Mike just don't care. They're just like, whatever. We kill ourselves, we kill the monsters, and everybody lives happily ever after. And finally he just storms out and gets all upset. Mike finally, like, snaps at him because he's like, Lucas just cares about Max and you just care about Eleven and nobody cares about D&D because Dustin's not even here, and he's, like, the first one to actually call it out. Like, it's a group of 4, but there's only 3 of them there. And Mike shoots back, like, it's not my fault you don't like girls. Which, is that a reference to him just not, like, reaching maturity as fast as the rest of them? Or is this kind of a reference to his sexuality? Which, going all the way back to, like, the first episode, they've kind of dropped hints at that. And the 2 of them just kind of stop and look at each other, like, is this something we're going to talk about? And then they just keep going. So, I mean, I guess, as of this point, it's still kind of up for debate. Because they haven't really confirmed or denied anything yet. I got so many notes. Where are we going? We see Max and Eleven go to the pool to kind of, like, look for Heather together, but they don't really find her. But they do find, like, her bag, and it's all bloody and everything. Joyce and Hopper go to the lab, and it's kind of a, like, sad moment because she sees where Bob dies, and they find, like, where all the holes were to get into the other dimension. They've all been filled with concrete. Robin solves the mystery of, like, the Russian thing that Dustin taped. where, like, I mean, I guess I was hoping for something more, like, because you could have guessed, like, okay, yeah, it's, especially after they heard the carnival music in the background, you could guess that these are places in the mall, but I was hoping for more clues before they actually solved it. And she's the one that just solves it right away. Where, like, the silver cat is the links from like the delivery man. The a trip to China sounds nice. It's the food court. If you tread lightly is the shoe store. When blue and yellow meet in the west is the clock hands. So stuff like that. It's like, okay, it's really interesting, but I would have liked to have seen more and get more hints before we just see Robin stand in the middle of the alley, the action, whatever, and look around and solve it right away. So I was a little disappointed by that, or at least how fast that was. Dustin and Lucas go to Will's house after he just destroys Castle Byers, and it's really kind of sad to, like, watch him, like, kind of come to that reality. Like, their friends are starting to grow apart, which is part of life, and he just decimates it. And then he starts to realize, like, he feels the Pringles on the back of his neck, and he realizes that he's back. The giant monster's back. So right away, this is kind of that uphill where it's like, it's almost like a roller coaster ride where we're almost to that top where things are going to, like, finally come together. Because I guarantee you, we'll see all of these groups merge together towards the end of the season again. Because that's the way they keep doing it. So whatever. Let's see. Mrs. Driscoll was insane eating the fertilizer, and it was kind of creepy because, I mean, the last time we saw that was the rat that flipped inside out and then went out. So is the rat, like, now inside of her? Has she been possessed? I don't know what's going on with that, but it was kind of creepy. Not gonna lie. Robin, Dustin, and Steve are, like, find the Russians, and they're, like, on top of the roof, like, spying on them. So they finally do. We're getting a little bit closer to that. Max and 11 go to Heather's house, and they find Billy there. And not just Billy, but Heather's father is Nancy's boss. So it's one of those, like, small town things, and all these characters are coming together. And let me tell you, that was creepy as well when Billy is, like, super nice to Max. And we've seen him act that way before, but, like, he, like, shoos her away, and then watching Heather and Billy, like, just knock her parents out. Like, we don't know if they killed him or what, but they just completely knock him out. They use her mom passes out, and they use the stuff on her dad, and it's creepy, but it's a great cliffhanger to kind of pull you into the next episode, which is what this show's really good at. Chloroform, I couldn't think of the word. It looks like Billy uses chloroform on Heather's dad. So anyway, overall, I would say it's a really good episode. It's asking more questions than giving answers, but it's fine so far. I'm still super into it. For those who have seen it, what did you guys think? Go ahead, let me know, and I will see you guys next time for the sauna test.